Hello, Anthony.
Hello, Claudine.
So we've been doing a lot of work on FATCA.
Yes.
But there are some tax laws that unfortunately we can't change.
That's right.
So the best we can do is educate people on them.
That's right.
Today we're talking about the IRS notice CP2000. Now, the CP2000 means the IRS thinks the income and or payment information they have on file doesn't match the information you reported on your tax return.
That's right.
So it could affect your tax return. It could increase or decrease.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. It's also called an automated under-reporter, and it's not a bill, but it sort of looks like a bill.
It sure does. It's funny because do you send out bills that have a returned envelope for you to put a check in? It sure looks like a bill to me, and I do wonder how many times people see this, don't understand it, and figure that they don't have any choice but to pay the bill. It's scary that there's an assumption that most people would challenge things they don't owe, but for so many people, they're so petrified of the IRS, well, I don't want to anger them, and they'll just pay something. And unfortunately, it happens quite a bit.
Yep. Now, if you don't respond to this letter, you will face potential additional penalties and interest, and then you'll start getting a lot more bills.
If you don't address the letter, they're just going to assume what they're doing is correct because here's our proposed changes. Let us know if you object. If you don't object, we're going to claim these are how it is. Now, it happens a lot when you have people who live overseas where the IRS doesn't have a good address on somebody that they may just go ahead and assess it. Now, the good news, if this does happen, that you always can go back and challenge something that essentially at any point, if there's a tax debt due and owing and you were denied an opportunity, even through your own fault, of challenging it, you can go back and usually there's some sort of mechanism. Oftentimes that would be an audit reconsideration.
Okay. So what should you do if you receive a CP2000? Number one, don't ignore it. You only have 30 days from the date of the letter, the date you actually, not the date you receive it, but the date the IRS sent it out, to return your response. And again, this doesn't mean putting it in the mailbox. It's the date the IRS gets it.
I would say that that's not a hard rule because the IRS doesn't respond to things quickly. So if you are that 30 days behind, you could usually get it in anyway.
Oh.
And you'll also find dates of notices. Somehow the IRS is sending it from the future. They will date a notice before you even get it. So it's just because they have to account for the mail. So oftentimes you'll get something from in the future to say, wait, I owe this. But,
wow.
Yep.
So it should come, it may not come with, it's two options. It will either have an IRS response form or alternate instructions on what steps you should take. If you agree with the adjusted information, you simply sign it and return it. If you disagree, you either need to call the IRS, there's a phone number on the notice, or write to them providing data of your information and why you disagree. And this is where we say it's really important. If you disagree, make sure you have really well-kept records and written documentation of exactly why you are right and they are wrong.
Yeah, and I think something that we've found out over the years is there's a whole group of people who aren't tax attorneys or CPAs, but boy, are they organized and boy, are they sharp. And this is something that they can respond very well, sometimes better than attorneys, that they can do that. So if you're one of those people, you're probably already ahead of this video. You're probably already at the end.
Yep. There's another option, too. You might feel like the information provided to the IRS by the third party was incorrect, in which case you want to contact that third party, ask them to correct it, and forward that information to the IRS. All right. So now the notice says that my taxes will increase. We get this question a lot. Will I be charged interest on the money I owe?
Yes, and the interest will backdate to the original due date of the return because that was when you really owed the tax. So they'll go back and backdate it. Then people always want to know, can we abate interest? And the answer is, I can't say never because you could get an act of Congress to abate your interest, but that's basically what it takes. As far as penalties go, most people are entitled to a first-time penalty abatement for something, and it's just a question of knowing what it is and asking for it.
Now, what if somebody finds out they owe money and they can't afford to pay? Then what? Do they ignore it?
Well, I would say that's not the greatest idea. However, people do that, and they get away with it a while until they don't. So you might want to be more proactive about it and get it down to something sort of manageable. So if it's a small amount, just get into an installment agreement. And if it's under $25,000, you can get into something, do a direct debit, so you just sort of forget it. You know, every big tax problem starts small. This could be the start of it. So my advice is to try to keep it small. And by keeping it small, you actually end up ahead of the game course, you never see the large problem you avoid, but just imagine you could avoid a very large problem.
I have to say, when I started here, I was surprised to find out with something like an installment agreement that with the IRS, you can negotiate. They'll take a monthly payment or a one-time lump sum.
That's right.
Very surprising.
Yeah, and usually with CP2000 adjustments, they're not typically large. Sometimes we do find that, especially with stock transactions, when the IRS reports a stock sale or someone reports a stock sale, but they're acting like you didn't pay anything for the stock, meaning it's pure profit, because in fact you could have a loss. But for the most part, the amounts generally aren't terribly high. Somebody left off a 1099 from some small that they forgot about. Maybe they proctored an SAT. That could be something you left off, something that didn't happen every year, so you didn't happen to look for it, and your tax preparer didn't happen to look for it.
And finally, beware. And I almost feel like we should have started with this. There are fake CP2000 notices.
Isn't that cute?
So the scammers, the phone scammers in India, some of their call centers have gotten busted, man. But they have a new scam, fake CP2000 notices. And they look very similar to the IRS notices. There are a couple differences, and maybe I'll link to our article below because we have a screenshot side by side of what a fake CP2000 looks like and a real CP2000. And what they do on the fake ones is it's not a ton of money. So they'll say you owe maybe $50 to $300 because of some Obamacare thing, and who understands Obamacare? So you just go, oh, I must owe this, and you send the check in. So just be mindful that when you get a CP2000, you check to make sure it is a real CP2000 notice.
Now, I would want to close on one thing for our FATCA following. Here's something that goes on that we all know that according to the Foreign Tax Compliance Act, foreign banks have to report information to the IRS. And this information is more than 1099. So my question is, and I've been doing this for a while, and I sort of keep a pulse on things, I have yet to come across a CP2000 that includes foreign income.
Oh.
So here's the thing and we were at the hearing where the FATCA expert was saying, oh, we got to have this information. We got to have this information. My question is, where is it going? All this essential information that these banks have been reporting stuff to the IRS, yet there's no action being taken. And I think it goes to our standard response of where so many things sent to the U.S. government go. And if you could imagine that large warehouse at the end of Indiana Jones, the first one, where the Covenant of the Ark goes into storage, and that's where we think so much essential information goes, where I'm sure it's secure.
Oh, sure. There's a guy with the key for the lock.
Right.
It's very secure.
He's there. Yeah.
All right. Well, if you have any questions, you can like and comment below, and make sure you subscribe to our channel so you get more awesome tax updates. We want to thank you for watching.